As we will learn in the Astrology Demystified series, stories are an integral part of the practice of astrology. As part of furthering our understanding, I'm creating a couple different companion series focusing on stories and how they relate to astrology or its related schools such as mythology. This series is based on a game that my wife and I invented when we were on our honeymoon road tripping across the US. I call it the Zodiac Game. The Zodiac Game is very simple. Basically, you and a partner pick a movie, TV series, or book that you both know well, and you try to guess the signs of each character. I would emphasize the importance of fiction genres like fantasy, sci-fi, action, adventure, or others that generally have simple characters. Complex plots and characters make the game more difficult, as does non-fiction, because it increases the incentive to just look up the actual signs of the people in real life. The game should move quickly, without taking too much deliberation, and it should be fun and help us learn. The basic strategy of the game, and the main learning tool, is this. We use the 4 elements and the 3 modalities as our guide for figuring out each character's sign. For those of us that don't know yet, the 12 zodiac are divided into 2 different groups. The first group is that of the 4 elements. Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are the 3 fire signs, often said to be bold, passionate, and brash. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are the 3 earth signs, often said to be practical, materialistic, and dependable. Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are the 3 air signs, often said to be intellectual, inquisitive, and direct. And Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are the 3 water signs, often said to be emotional, intuitive, and imaginative. The second grouping is that of the 3 modalities. Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn are the 4 cardinal signs, often said to be initiators, strategists, and leaders. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius are the 4 fixed signs, often said to be doers, stable and dedicated to their missions. And Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces are the 4 mutable signs, often said to be flexible, adaptable, and transformative. From this breakdown, we can see that each element has one of each modality in it, a cardinal, a fixed, and a mutable, and each modality has one of each element in it, a fire, earth, air, and water. Now, before we get to the game, I want to look a little closer at the modalities, because they're often much less understood than the elements. First, there is the significance of the placements of the modalities. They always follow the order of cardinal, fixed, and then mutable. This is because cardinal signs start at the equinoxes, or solstices, of each season. They begin each season and mark its first 30 days. The word cardinal means essential, fundamental, or pivotal, and comes from the Latin cardinalis, a figurative use of the word cardo, which means that on which something turns, like a door hinge. The fixed signs fall on the following 30 days, the middle of each season, and the word fixed means unchangeable in position, which comes from the Latin fixus, which means immovable, established, settled. Finally, the mutable signs mark the final 30 days of each season, and the word mutable means likely to change, which comes from the Latin mutare, which means to change. Now from this, we can easily get a sense of the most basic characteristics of each sign by combining the ideas of its element with that of its modality. Aries is the cardinal fire sign, so it is a bold leader, while Taurus is the fixed earth sign, so it is a practical doer. This is essentially how the game works. We try to pinpoint either the element first and then match them to a modality, or the modality first and try to match them to an element. However, to start us off, and to reinforce the ideas of the modalities further, I thought we would start with a well-known TV series that has already done half of the work for us. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a popular young adult TV show set in a fantasy world divided into 4 nations based on the idea of the 4 elements. There is the militaristic and industrialized Fire Nation, the diverse and bureaucratic Earth Kingdom, the tribalistic and decentralized water tribe, and the monastic and spiritual air nomads. Additionally, certain members of each nation are born with the ability to bend or manipulate the element of their nation, either as a martial art or for the purpose of labor. Finally, there is a reincarnated avatar who is born with the ability to bend all four elements, and whose responsibility is to maintain the balance between the four nations. Each time the avatar is reborn, however, they are born to one of the nations in a repeating succession, meaning they are imbued with the characteristics of that nation in this particular incarnation. Whether it was intentional or not, the creators of this show seem to have matched the characteristics of the people in the four nations to the ideas of the classical elements very well. The people of the Fire Nation have desire and will, and the energy and drive to achieve what they want. The people of the Earth Kingdom are diverse and strong. They are persistent and enduring. The people of the Water Tribe are capable of adapting to many things. They have a deep sense of community and love that holds them together through anything. And the people of the Air Nomads detach themselves from worldly concerns and found peace and freedom. So, when we analyze the characteristics of the central characters of Avatar, we already have the elements figured out for us. We can instead focus on just figuring out the modality of each character to determine their sign. In the show, we are only given 3 central characters from the Fire Nation, while there are 2 central characters from the Water Tribe, and just 1 central character each from the Earth Kingdom and the Air Nomads. However, side characters are often even easier to identify since they are less fleshed out and developed, so they are more like a caricature than a real person. Because of this, we will be using a significant amount of side characters, and even a few characters from the sequel series, The Legend of Korra. We will follow the order of the elements and the cycle of the Zodiac. So starting with fire, we will look at Uncleiro, Princess Azula, Prince Zuko, and then for earth, Toph, Bolin, Lin Beifong, for air, Boomi, Avatar Aang, Monk Gyotso, and for water, Saka, Katara, and Princess Yue. So let's get started. Uncleiro is a prince of the Fire Nation and one of its greatest military commanders. Even though he was the firstborn son of his father, the Fire Lord Azulon, court intrigue had his younger brother Ozai succeed as Fire Lord upon the death of Azulon, while Iroh was abroad on campaign. Iroh had just lost his son, Lu-Ten, in battle, and his depressed state ensured he would not contest his brother's succession. Instead, he left the military and seems to have gone on a journey of self-discovery and reflection. Eventually, he took to fostering his nephew, Prince Zuko. When Zuko was banished by his father for a public dishonor, Iroh acted as a wise guardian to Zuko, guiding him to discover his own honor independently of his father, and to think critically about the war of conquest he and his ancestors had undertaken. Iroh was a member of the White Lotus, a secret society dedicated to the Avatar's mission to restore balance to the world, and so he was secretly acting to subvert the Fire Nation's goals of conquest. He was also a pioneer of adventure, having been one of the very few people to travel to the spirit world. He is sentimental, easygoing, open-minded, generous, kind, and humorous. Iroh is somewhat hedonistic, but more in the sense of truly living life to the fullest, as he is a lover of music, food, tea, and romance. He believes in free will, and he's very spiritual, though not above trickery and guile when the need arises. Despite being a mastermind tactician and one of the most powerful firebenders in the world, he does not desire power. In my opinion, Iroh is clearly cardinal. He is a brilliant strategist and inspires loyalty in those who follow him. He was ambitious and adventurous in his youth, and tempered and wise in his old age, much like a leader should be. He was instrumental in shaping Zuko into the prince that would change the course of the Fire Nation forever. He even almost literally acts as a door hinge, with his signature advanced firebending technique, lightning redirection, where he absorbs lightning and redirects it where he wishes it to go. So, as the cardinal fire sign, Iroh is an Aries, the sign often described as bold, ambitious, and a confident leader focused on building community with cheer and determination. Princess Azula is Iroh's niece and Zuko's younger sister. She is the favored child of their father, Fire Lord Ozai, and a firebending prodigy, who bends her own unique blue fire. Azula is sent by Ozai to track down the Avatar after it becomes clear that Zuko is failing to do so in his banishment. She is a true villain, resorting to any means necessary to accomplish her goals without care for the pain and suffering she causes along the way. She often resorts to lies, manipulation, cunning, and sadistic psychological games to get what she wants. She is proud and rarely backs down from a fight, even when the odds are against her, and will even feign surrender to get her opponent to let their guard down. Despite her own successive failures, she refuses to change her character. Her use of fear to try to control those around her leads to them betraying her, which, instead of teaching her of her own shortcomings, causes her to double down on her technique. Her inability to control the people and events around her eventually leads to her mental state slowly deteriorating into madness. She's so utterly convinced of her own beliefs and worldview that their disruption destroys her. Despite her villainy, she is beautiful, highly intelligent, ambitious, diligent, and courageous. In my opinion, Azula is clearly fixed. She is considered dependable by those who call her an ally. She possesses a singular focus on whatever her current task is, and she refuses to change her character even in the face of extreme adversity. So, as the fixed fire sign, Azula is a Leo, the sign often described as passionate, arrogant, creative, stubborn, and regal. They know what they want in life, and they are likely to accomplish it, though they may neglect the feelings or needs of others along the way. Prince Zuko is Iroh's nephew and Azula's older brother, and he's one of the central characters of Avatar. He goes through one of the best-written and most remarkable transformations of any character in the history of television. When the series starts, Zuko has been banished for public dishonor and sentenced to return only when he has restored that honor by capturing the Avatar. Because of this, he is initially the primary antagonist of the show. Zuko shares some characteristics with Azula at first, being singularly focused on his mission. However, in constantly having his honor called into question, Zuko is determined to accomplish his goals honorably, and will often choose to put himself in harm's way, or give up the pursuit if it means risking others. He is portrayed as very impulsive, quick to anger, and unwilling to compromise. Unlike Azula, however, his successive failures begin to show him that he must change everything he believes if he is to truly be an honorable person. He falls further and further from his father's grace, and in exile begins to see the horrors the war that he has championed is inflicting upon the world. At one point, a lie of Azula's redeems his standing in his father's eyes, and he's welcomed home. However, in being there, he learns that what he thought he wanted does not fulfill him. He eventually decides to join the Avatar, and to work to end the war. In doing so, he discovers that his rage is what fueled his firebending before, and so he must completely relearn how to bend in order to help the Avatar. Zuko is temperamental, traumatized, and frustrated, but he is open to learning, and so he grows and develops and eventually is instrumental in changing the world. In my opinion, Zuko is clearly mutable. His entire character arc is about transforming every belief he has and turning them around 180 degrees. He quite literally mutates from one character into another, yet somehow he remains unmistakably himself, indicating that that change is the most important part of who he is. So, as the mutable fire sign, Zuko is a Sagittarius, the sign often described as passionate, curious, and adaptable. They are truth seekers and will venture where none before have dared to go to discover the secrets of the world. Zuko quite literally embodies this as he travels the world, first searching for the Avatar, then searching for a home, and finally seeking the key to restore peace to the world. Now onto the Earth signs. We will start with Toph, the most fleshed-out member of the Earth Kingdom in the Avatar series. Toph is a blind, earthbending prodigy who defeats her opponents by using her heightened sensitivity to vibrations in the ground to perceive their movements. However, when we are first introduced to her, she is hiding her genius from her wealthy noble family. She lives a double life, one as Toph Beifong, the small and helpless daughter of Lao Beifong, and another as the blind bandit, a champion of professional competitive earthbending. We meet her at the precise time when Aang is searching for an earthbending master, so he may continue his avatar training. Thanks to his airbending allowing him to hover above the ground, he manages to defeat Toph in the ring, which greatly upsets her. He then asks for her to teach him earthbending, but she refuses. When Aang discovers her other life as the helpless Beifong daughter, he tries to upset her routine once again by forcing her to demonstrate her strength to her father. Toph is resistant at every turn, however, enjoying the comforts of her home life and the excitement of her alter ego, even if both are lies about who she truly is. When she finally does decide to join Team Avatar and train Aang, she clashes with the personalities of the other members of the team. Toph likes to play things cool and take it easy, except when she's training Aang, where she will drill him relentlessly and push his comfort zone to its limits. Toph greatly enjoys independence and doesn't naturally help others with their loads. She likes to carry her own weight. She jumps at every opportunity to enjoy pleasures, like a mud bath or gambling. But she is a powerhouse as a fighter, besting almost anyone she comes up against and fiercely protecting her friends and allies. She bonds closely with the team as time goes on, and learns the importance of teamwork. But overall, her personality doesn't shift throughout the series. She is crass, tough, and confident. In my opinion, Toph is clearly fixed. She is reluctant to change her routine or sacrifice independence, and reacts with anger to either of those things being upset. She doesn't show any ambition, preferring things to stay as they are as long as she gets to enjoy herself. She's insanely good at what she does because she spends all her time doing the same thing over and over. So, as the fixed Earth sign, Toph is a Taurus, a sign often described as enjoying relaxation and calming pleasures, but also understanding the importance of excellence and focus on singular objectives for the purpose of returns on their investment. They are loyal, dedicated, and stubborn. In the sequel series to Avatar, The Legend of Korra, Bolin is the first person Korra meets on her journey that welcomes her and shows interest in her. He and his brother Mako are professional competitive benders, but they are also mixed up with a crime syndicate in Republic City. At first, Bolin is romantically interested in Korra, and he tries to use his humor and charm to woo her. Their relationship doesn't blossom how he hopes, however, but instead of taking it personally, Bolin shifts gears and becomes one of her best friends. As a supporting character, Bolin maintains his loyalty to Korra and their friends, supporting them in their trials and challenges. However, on his own, Bolin is quite fickle. He starts out as a pro-bender and occasional criminal, before joining up with an entrepreneur and industrialist, Varric, to star in his Mover pictures as the heroic adventurer Nuktuk. After harmonic convergence, Bolin decides to seek out new airbenders in the foreign nations, and ends up taking part in an insurrection against the Earth Queen to free airbenders that she was holding captive. He later travels to the metalbending clan and tries to learn to metalbend, but is unable to do so. However, later trials lead to him unlocking his ability to lava bend, a very rare advanced form of earthbending that allows him to manipulate earth as lava, heating or cooling it as he pleases. Finally, towards the series' end, he becomes involved with Kuvira, a military leader who is attempting to reunite the shattered Earth Kingdom. When Kuvira's methods become clearly authoritarian and inhumane, Bolin begins to work against her. Throughout the series, Bolin is shown as laid-back, enthusiastic, and optimistic. He can also be naive and idealistic. This comes from a desire to help others, but also allows him to be easily manipulated. In my opinion, Bolin is clearly mutable. His character is defined by constant change, trying new things to see what works and what doesn't. He's impulsive and excitable, drawn to new experiences and new people. So, as the mutable earth sign, Bolin is a Virgo, the sign often described as idealistic, fastidious, and mercurial. Virgos have a desire to care for the small and helpless, But since the small are undoubtedly the more numerous, it can be hard for Virgos to focus on one thing for a long period of time. Like Bolin, they want to save everyone and everything and make them feel good about themselves. But their inability to step back and look at the big picture makes them vulnerable to manipulation by those who can. Lin Beifong, the eldest daughter of Toph, is another character from Korra. Lin is the chief of police in Republic City and leads the elite police team of Metalbenders. Lin has a strict sense of justice and law, and we are first introduced to her when she arrests Korra for her vigilante activities, defending hopeless people from the local crime syndicate. Lin is cold with Korra for a long time, giving her no respect simply for being the Avatar, and forcing her to prove herself to win her admiration. In the Equalist Crisis, Lin has a conservative approach to combating Amon, increasing security at public events and waiting and watching before acting. However, when it comes to actually fighting, Lin is the first to place herself in harm's way if it means protecting others. Lin is shown to be uncompromising many times over, and holds on to grudges for a long time. She resents her sister for her chaotic and thrill-seeking lifestyle, and refuses to let time heal old wounds. However, once she bonds with someone, she becomes fiercely loyal to them. In my opinion, Lin is clearly cardinal. She has a clear sense of right and wrong, will put herself in harm's way instead of others, and inspires loyalty in those who follow her. Her leadership qualities have propelled her to Chief of Police, a position that she would have attained even if her mother hadn't been the prior chief. So, as the cardinal earth sign, Lin is a Capricorn, the sign often described as resilient, disciplined, and traditional. Capricorns are responsible and independent, though at times condescending and uncompromising. They are ambitious, but will only use honest and honorable methods of attaining status and position. They can seem cold and unforgiving, but they believe that their attitude is practical and necessary. Now let's move on to the 3 air signs, and the final character from Korra we will be using. Boomi is Avatar Aang's eldest son, and a non-bender. We don't meet him until the end of the first book of Korra, and when we do, it is just for a brief moment as we see him arrive, the military commander of a fleet of ships. Most of what we get is that Boomi is highly energetic and a nuisance to his younger brother Tenzin. His nephews are delighted at his arrival, however, and he's very likable, albeit a bit flamboyant and odd. It takes a while for Boomi to begin to play a real role in the events of Korra, but we do get a good sense of his personality, as playful and teasing. We also hear lots of stories of his that are clearly embellished to make him appear greater than he is. It becomes clear that part of Boomi feels inadequate because of his inability to bend, and he believes that he was a disappointment to his father. Throughout the many challenges he faces as he begins to play a more prominent role, it becomes clear that Boomi's strength lies in his ability to improvise. This can also be his downfall, however, as sometimes his elaborate plans backfire. After harmonic convergence, Boomi undergoes a huge physical change when he suddenly develops the ability to airbend. While not necessarily a natural, his playful attitude and improvisational ability are assets to his airbending, and demonstrate how he was carrying on the tradition of the airbenders even before he could bend. Boomi is wild and reckless, but also caring and loyal, and always devotes himself to trying to improve the world around him. In my opinion, Boomi is clearly mutable. He is unpredictable and playful, always making light of difficult situations and enjoying the moment. His greatest struggle seems to be with his father and his siblings, but even then he doesn't seem to hold on to animosity for long, instead transmuting it into a game or show. In the second half of Korra, he literally transforms into an airbender from a non-bender. So, as the mutable air sign, Boomi is a Gemini, the sign often described as communicative, chameleon-like, and adaptive to a variety of situations. Geminis are often seen as superficial, but they're also quick-witted, optimistic, forgive easily, and look on the bright side of life. Avatar Aang is the main character of The Last Airbender, a 12-year-old boy upon whom the world depends for the restoration of balance. If you already know anything about astrology, that sentence tells you which sign I'm going to label Aang as. But for everyone else, Aang was an easygoing and playful child who found out he was the Avatar and ran away from home because of the pressure of that responsibility. In a moment of desperation in his flight, his latent Avatar powers kicked in and protected him by cocooning him in a ball of air and ice, preserving him as a child for 100 years. When he was discovered by Katara and Saka, he was still reluctant to take any responsibility as the Avatar, but soon discovered that the balance of the world had been so upset by the Fire Nation that he had little choice. Throughout his adventures, he displays a hope that inspires those around him to follow him, a diplomatic charm that easily sways others, and a determination to make everyone around him truly believe in him. Even though he is often playful and light-hearted, he understands that serious situations call for serious action, and he steps into that role very easily. He is a true prodigy, being an airbending master at only 12. And even without the power of the preceding avatars to back him up, he is incredibly powerful, able to redirect an erupting volcano or take out entire Fire Nation Navy ships single-handed. He possesses a strong sense of justice, but at the same time believes in compassion. Even after all the atrocities of the Fire Nation, he refuses to kill Fire Lord Ozai, and instead finds a way no one even thought of to stop him. In my opinion, Aang is clearly cardinal. He possesses many of the traits of a natural leader, and the fate of the world literally hinges upon him. So, as the cardinal air sign, Aang is a Libra, the sign often described as compassionate, intelligent, and selfless. Libras desire balance and are experts at compromise and diplomacy. They can easily see another's point of view and want a large group of good friends. They can often be seen as having their head in the clouds, but they are dreamers, and their imagination is one of their greatest assets. Monk Gyotso was Aang's mentor before he fled and was frozen in ice. Gyotso was the most powerful airbender of his time, and a member of the wisest and most senior air nomads. When this council learned of the coming war with the Fire Nation, they wanted to reveal Aang's true nature as the Avatar to him, and to accelerate his training, but Gyotso stood against them. He believed that Aang needed to have a proper childhood in order to be the best person he could be, let alone the best Avatar. While the other nomads wanted Aang to train, Gyotso would play games with Aang, and sometimes even pranks on the other monks. Later on in the show, it is revealed that Gyotso was a close friend of Aang's previous incarnation, Avatar Roku, and we are shown that in his youth he was much like how we had seen him as an old man, playful, light-hearted, and fun. When the council informed Gyotso that they would be removing him as Aang's guardian, Gyotso refused to compromise or acquiesce, and instead attempted to steal Aang away in the night, sacrificing his own station as a respected airbending elder in the process. He was too late, however, as Aang had overheard the conversation and fled before Gyotso arrived. In my opinion, Gyotso is clearly fixed. We see that his playful personality doesn't shift in the slightest throughout the course of his life. He remains unyielding in the face of adversity, and resorts to subversion to ensure his way is the only way. So, as the fixed air sign, Gyotso is an Aquarius, the sign often described as humanitarian, uncompromising, and fun. Aquariuses like taking risks, championing a cause, and having deep intellectual conversations. They are averse to limitations, loneliness, and boredom. They can be idealistic, but they believe strongly in freedom and the infinite possibilities of this world. And now, finally, on to the water signs. Saka is the only main character of Avatar who is not a bender. He and his sister Katara are the first two characters we meet in the show. They are members of the Southern Water Tribe that live near the South Pole. When we first meet Saka, he is skeptical of Aang, and remains skeptical of most of the new people he meets throughout their journeys, and most anything he cannot recreate himself, such as a fortune teller or spirit beings. He is the only young man left in his village, as all the other men went off to fight the Fire Nation, including his father. Sokka's mother was taken from him and Katara in a Fire Nation raid when he was just a boy. Sokka is driven by his desire to prove himself as a warrior, Throughout the series, he will rush headlong into battle with little care for his own safety, as long as the objective is being moved towards. However, he is not reckless. He has a keen mind for strategy and is trusted by those who follow him. He plans an entire invasion of the Fire Nation and leads soldiers much older and more experienced than himself in it, including his own father. Saka is curious and has a tinkering mind. He admires engineers and understands mechanics and other inventions quite easily. At first, he is a bit sexist, insisting that there are tasks girls cannot do. However, he is not so thick-headed that he is averse to being proven wrong, especially when someone is better at something than he is. Saka acts aloof to most people he hasn't yet gotten to know, but once someone bonds with him, he becomes fiercely loyal to them. Throughout the series, Saka acts as the team's main leader and strategist, as well as their main morale booster, with his constant barrage of dad jokes. The person he most often clashes with is his sister, Katara, when her strict morality and insistence on the proper way to do things comes into conflict with his practicality and goal-oriented thinking. In my opinion, Saka is clearly cardinal. He is a natural leader, and many others come to depend on his decisiveness and action in crisis situations. He is traditional, but open to new ideas as long as they serve his goals. He enjoys solving puzzles, and he naturally draws those around him towards him, if they can play a role in his solutions. So, as the cardinal water sign, Saka is a Cancer, the sign often described as standoffish when first introduced, strongly intuitive of interpersonal dynamics and motivations, and averse to small talk. Cancers bond deeply to those they let in. They are straightforward and love being creative. Sokka's sister, Katara, is the last waterbender left in her tribe. She greatly desires to keep her culture alive by learning the art of waterbending. When she meets Aang, she is hopeful that he will be able to teach her to bend. When they learn that he is the Avatar, Katara immediately understands that she is destined to aid him in his quest. She has a very strict sense of morality, and struggles with the arbitrary complexities of the world she ventures out into, such as when she tries to save a Fire Nation village from the pollution of a nearby military factory, and ends up causing more problems for the village. She's also extremely stubborn and defiant of traditions and norms that come into conflict with her morality, such as when she stands up to Master Pakku, who refuses to teach girls waterbending. Despite her feminism, Katara is easily swept off her feet by capable and inspiring young men, such as Jet, whom she latches onto and defends even as her own brother begins to uncover Jet's questionable behavior and goals. However, once Jet's true nature is revealed to her, she is vicious in her vengeance and unlikely to forgive. Katara is also the last member of Team Avatar to accept and trust Zuko when he changes sides. She is a healer, both physically and psychologically, and takes on the troubles of everyone else in her group, offering empathy and affection. She is known and even mocked for her hope-filled speeches that come from her belief in the black and white morality of the universe. She also acts as Aang's tether to the world, with their emotional connection being the only thing that can pull him back from the blind destruction of his avatar state, when his body is possessed by all the spirits of the previous incarnations of the Avatar. In my opinion, Katara is clearly fixed. Her strict morality has difficulty adapting to reality, and she believes strongly in doing things a specific way, even when certain steps may be unnecessary. She's very diligent, so much so that when she's finally able to train her waterbending, she's able to master advanced techniques at an exceptional rate. So, as the fixed water sign, Katara is a Scorpio, the sign often described as not backing down from argument or debate, passionate and brusque. Scorpios value authenticity and hard work. They're very sensitive, but disguise that sensitivity with a layer of confidence and toughness. If they do allow themselves to be vulnerable, betraying that trust is a serious mistake because they will not forgive or forget. The final character we will be looking at is Princess Yue, the daughter of the chief of the Northern Water Tribe. Our introduction to Princess Yue is as a love interest for Sokka. He spies her when Team Avatar first arrives at the Northern Water Tribe. When they get a chance to talk, Yue is very sweet, gentle, and kind. She enjoys Sokka's sense of humor, and they connect immediately. She is delighted by Sokka's attention and welcomes it, but later has a change of heart when she realizes she really likes him. This is because she is betrothed, and fears the consequences of going against the traditions of her tribe. When the young men of her tribe must risk themselves to fight the Fire Nation, she provides them with hope and inspiration. Her father, the chief, takes note of Sokka's affection for her, and so he assigns Sokka to guard her during the Fire Nation's siege of the north. Because of this, Sokka is with Yue when the Fire Nation Admiral Zhao kills the physical manifestation of the moon spirit, a fish that swims in constant unison with another fish, the physical manifestation of the ocean spirit. This causes a lunar eclipse, which deprives the waterbenders of their ability to bend. Yue then reveals to everyone that she was born sickly, and her father petitioned the moon spirit to save her. Because of this, a piece of the moon spirit lives within Yue, and so Yue realizes that she must sacrifice herself to save the moon. She does so willingly, but not before confessing her love to Sokka. Sokka is reluctant to let her go, but Yue understands what she must do. She saves the moon spirit, and her spirit becomes fused to it as she ascends into the sky. In my opinion, Yue is clearly mutable. She entertains the possibility of a romance with Sokka even when she knows that it is impossible, and we get a clear perspective of how much her spirit is crushed by her need to fulfill a duty that goes against what she wants. She also literally transforms into the moon. So, as the mutable water sign, Yue is a Pisces, the sign often described as deeply emotional, spontaneous, and sensitive. Pisces can clearly sense the vibe of a given situation and don't like it to be bad. They are creative and imaginative and like to spend time alone. Yue's Piscean symbology is quite blatant with the two fish that symbolize the balance of moon and ocean. So, that is basically how the game works. I hope it helps to narrow in on some of the ideas associated with the signs of the zodiac. Some things to take note of. You might have noticed that the attributes of a particular element are more in line with a particular modality, and indeed, this is something astrologers themselves have identified. Fire and water signs are said to be generally more cardinal, while earth signs are more fixed and air signs more mutable. This also follows the initial phase of the cycle, as the first cardinal sign is fire, the first fixed sign is earth, the first mutable air, and the first water sign is also cardinal. Personally, I think of water as more like a mix of mutable and cardinal, but symbolism is a vague and abstract school open to interpretation. Another thing to notice is how useful this game can be in reverse. It is a great tool for writers looking to create characters. If you are at a loss of how to make supporting characters unique and interesting, assigning them a combination of element and modality that none of your previous established characters match will surely inspire some ideas. That is ultimately what astrology is about, too. Astrology is a story we tell ourselves about the order of the cosmos. We don't know if it's real or not, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is not whether or not a mythological character like Odysseus actually existed. It is what his adventure tells us about the epic journey that is life on this crazy planet. We know for a fact that Avatar is a fantasy story and is not real. But what happens feels real to us because the stakes in that world are the same as the stakes in our own, that nature has gone out of balance because of our burning hunger for more and more. The idea of synastry, or energies from the planets literally determining aspects of our personalities and fates, may not be real, but learning about it reinforces the idea that we are connected to this universe, and every decision we make and action we take has consequences that ripple out infinitely into the cosmos.
Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating it, please like it and subscribe to my channel. And I hope that you will also consider supporting the creation of more Astrology Demystified videos by donating to my Patreon. The link is below in the description. where you'll also see links to Instagram and Facebook, where you can follow me and ask any questions you might have about astrology or Astrology Demystified. Stay stellar.